Welcome back to Green is Good, and we leave the city of Chicago, and we're now headed over to the state of Seattle, Washington here, and we've got Daniel Beltrá, who's a well-known, world-known environmental photographer. Welcome to Green is Good.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Daniel, your work is just known across the world, and of course it's also exhibited in our friend Jolene Hansen's G2 gallery, and we've talked about it before. It's incredible art. But before we get into the exactitude of what's going on in the beautiful work that you do, I want you to share with our listeners a little bit about your journey, because everyone wants to hear more about the people that are on a show and how they get to where they are, sometimes more than just exactly what they're doing today.
Well, I'm not that young anymore, no? So it's a bit of a long story.
That's okay. We've got time. We're thrilled to have you.
48 years old. I'm originally from Madrid, Spain. I started in photography really pretty early on as a hobby, and studying biology also at the same time in Madrid in the university. Those were my two passions, but I never thought I was going to become a professional photographer. And my career in photography really started in photojournalism, working, covering all kinds of news. It went more into documentary photography, and very early on I started photographing the subject that mattered to me, which was really nature and the environment, and a bit documenting that impact we're having on the planet. One thing led to another. I did a lot of work with the environmental group Greenpeace, and we'll talk, I'm sure, about that later. I've traveled a lot with them. And in 2001, I moved to the States. I met my wife, Shoshana, in Anchorage in 97, and she moved to Spain with me, and then later we moved to the States, and this is where I'm based now.
Oh, that's wonderful. But, I mean, when you grew up in Madrid, were your parents environmentalists? Was there something what got you as a young person so interested?
In Spain we had a man called Félix Rodríguez de la Fuente, which was some kind of a David Attenborough for the English speakers. No, he was a naturalist, very well known, that had his own TV program, and he really influenced a full generation of kids in Spain. And he was always showcasing nature first around my country, but then also around the world. So I remember very well programs, about the struggle, the very few wolves we had in Spain and what was happening to them, and how it wasn't everything black or white. No, the wolves were not the best, but they were not terrible either. We didn't need to eliminate them. No, there was a way to find a coexistence between the species. No, so that really influenced me a lot. And I remember him also traveling to the Amazon, for example, and working out there. He was a figure really revered in my country, and a lot of people liked what he was doing. And unfortunately, he passed away in a plane accident covering the Iditarod race in Alaska. But that was really probably the main thing that did that to me. It was because I was a kid born in Madrid, in a big city. I wasn't so exposed to nature. And definitely my parents, they were concerned, but that was not really at all in my family, or even the journalism side wasn't there either.
Right. Well, that's so important. And that's why we do this show, because to highlight great people like you, the young people around the United States and the world that get to hear this show, they're going to be inspired by you, and they might want to become the next Daniel Beltrá. So I'm so thankful for you coming on today. Let's get right into it. You've done so much great work, and we're on your site right now. And for our listeners out there to follow along, please go on Daniel's wonderful site, Daniel Beltrá, Beltra.com. It is just spectacular. The photos are breathtaking. So talk a little bit about how you choose to do your work. Is it what the media's banging the drum about, or is it what something has spurred you on internally to chase a certain subject matter?
Well, I really cannot take the whole credit myself. I work on issues that are very big in scope normally and worldwide, that really require very big budgets to go photograph. Now, when I work around forests, I don't do forest locally. I end going to the Amazon or to Congo, to Indonesia. When I work about climate change, global warming, it ends taking me to the Arctic or to Antarctica. So really the budgets are pretty big. So I'm always partnering with somebody, and for many, many years, the main one has been Greenpeace for me. Greenpeace has been an incredible platform. I've had the opportunity to go work and do what I wanted, where I wanted, and that has been phenomenal. I've also worked with other projects, and with forests, for example, I won an award with Prince Charles Foundation, and that also gave me funding to produce a big body of work on the state of the tropical forests around the world. So it's always a bit of a combination.
Before we talk about the the art side of it and what you want people to come away with when they view your work, let's talk more about some of your other projects. So although you work with Greenpeace and some of these amazing organizations around the world, you did some wonderful work covering the spill. And you have a line of photographs that are called The Spill. And that was such a tragic accident, and it was such a hard time to live through. Every day I remember turning on the television and seeing the pump still pumping the oil into the ocean. And it was you just were expecting it soon to slow down, and it never did for such a long time. How does the gravity of the situations that you cover around the world weigh on you personally, and in terms of getting in the way you work, or in terms of inspiring you to really get it down and get it out there?
I am definitely an optimist, and some people get surprised when I say that, no, because of the subjects I cover or what I see. But I definitely feel there's not really another option. I mean, what can we do? I make a funny comparison. I say sometimes, I feel like I've been dropped in the middle of a lake. So what do? I'll sit there and drown or swim the best I can to the shore.
Right.
Well, I'm a swimmer. I really want to go and do the best I can with my work, and hopefully inspire others. And definitely on the day-to-day, there are harsh moments because I see things that are not pleasant, but I get that feeling of that internal motivation because I also feel the power of photography, and it's something that really transcends me. And there's many photographers like me doing good work, and we feel that people get inspired by that. And that's really the fuel for them.
Got it. And so when people go to galleries and they look at your beautiful work, or they go online and just look at it, what do you want them to come away with? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I want them to. First of all, I don't want them to be depressed. I want them to go out with maybe asking questions. I want them to feel them a bit motivated, like I was saying, but also just questioning themselves. I think, what are we doing? How are we doing this? What is the implication? We all tend to consider all these big issues they're too big for us to have any say on it, no? But at the end of the day, it's always the drop in the ocean, no? It's everything. All of us have a lot to do, It depends so much of our consumption fuels all this. So being careful on how we put our dollars has a huge influence in how the world is,
Exactly.
Who do we vote? What do we care about? So that's what I'm trying to do, no?
I see. And when I introduced you earlier, I called you an environmental photographer, but there is a difference. There, art and photography come together. How do you view yourself, and how do you introduce yourself if you were to meet someone today and have a lunch or a dinner with them and you had never met them before? Do you think of yourself as an environmental photographer, or as a strict artist, or as both?
I would say as both. It's always difficult to put a label on yourself. No, I at the end, it's just a label. So I hope the work speaks by itself. I definitely started on this as a photojournalist. I evolved maybe towards a documentary photographer, and I guess over the years, I'm developing more of a vision, and I want to express. I'm more conscious of how I do that, and what I put out and how I present my work and exactly what I want to tell. So that's probably where the art comes in. But, at the end of the day, they're just labels.
Right. I got you. I'm on your site right now. For our listeners who just joined us, we're so thankful to have Daniel Beltrá on, the environmental photographer and great artist, and we're on his site right now. It's Daniel Beltrá, Beltra.com. I'm looking at the projects part, and you have all these wonderful projects, and I've been scrolling through them while we've been chatting here. I'm on Amazon right now. I know this is hard. This is like a Sophie's Choice. What has been do you have a favorite project, if you were to point to one that you've worked on in your life?
Well, definitely the work I've done in the Amazon is a very, very important one for me, because I've been going to the Amazon since, for over a decade already, almost every year.
Right.
In fact, I hope to be going back again soon. And there's always a lot of work to be done there. People ask me, is this project done or finished? And I always say, no, there's so much happening that I don't think it will ever be finished in my life. No, there's always new stories to tell, hopefully with the goal to protect that beautiful rainforest. But in particular, in 2005, I photographed what was the biggest drought ever occurred in the region, since we have records, and that's really probably the project that started the whole art thing, and a way of developing a vision and mixing. I do a lot of photography from the air, a lot of aerial work and images that are more abstract and also beautiful and scary and daunting at the same time. So that project is very dear to me.
But you're going to go back to the Amazon. So you do revisit the places you photograph. How often? Is it a yearly thing? Is it something you try to get back to on a biannual basis? What is your sort of rhythm of work in life once you've made a journal of a photography journal and a portrait of a certain situation or a certain region?
Well, it again, even if I go back to the Amazon, rarely I go back to exactly the same regions. I mean, the Amazon is as large as the U.S. or part of Europe. No, it's huge in surface. So I work on the subject, but not so often I come back to the same spots. And it probably would be very interesting, but as I was saying early on, it's also a question of budgets and fundings and figuring out a way to come back. For example, this last September, I was very lucky to go back to the Arctic. I had been in the Arctic 15 years before that. And I remember going in Alaska in Barrow in an icebreaker and not being able to turn, to go any farther because the ice was covering everything. And when last September I went to the Arctic, we had the lowest sea ice record in the summer ever, and the ice is really melting away. Lots of navigation routes are opening, and we don't know how longer we're going to have ice in the summer in the Arctic, which is a pretty scary thought.
Yeah, it is. And you're relatively still, even though we were having fun at the beginning of the show talking about ages. I'm 50 years old. I don't consider myself that old, and I know you're younger than me. So what you have a long way to go and so much more to do. What are some places on your list of that you have to go to in your lifetime to photograph? Where do you really want to go? What's on the future for you?
Well, right now, and I don't know when or if that's going to happen, but I'd love to do a big project in Greenland. I think Greenland is a bit of the canary in the coal mine with all the melting of the planet. Last year, I think they were saying the scientists were saying that there was a surface melt in Greenland. I think it was over 93% of the ice. And so if the ice really goes in a place like Greenland, that's going to have an incredible chance, and it's going to be an incredible challenge for all of us, because all that is ice sitting on an island on land.
Right.
So it's going to really raise the sea level. If the ice melts in the Arctic, it has other implications, but it's already floating in the water, so that doesn't have much a chance on when we talk about sea level right now. But we can see what happened, for example, in New York with Sandy last year. So definitely the big storms and the surge on sea level is going to be a problem in the future.
Yeah, and so Greenland is on your list, and this year you're going to still go back to the Amazon. You said
I'm hoping to go back there. I was last year working in Brazil, documenting what's going to be the third largest dam in the world, and it's the Belo Monte project in the Amazon that was very controversial. And there's a full plan to do a bunch of more dams in the region, and so I'm very interested in working on that. And I don't know exactly how or when that's going to happen, but I hope it can happen this year. Yeah.
What are some of the effects, the positive effects that your work creates? What are some of the catalyst effects that your work creates when people come away from having seen it? What are the results that you see from people actually observing and understanding what you've done with your photography?
Well, it's difficult to quantify that, But just for example, having the opportunity right now to be talking with you and all your listeners,
Right.
It's a phenomenal chance to be here and hopefully inspiring people. When I was talking about the Prince Charles Rainforest Project, we made books that were distributed for free, over 1 million copies around the world to document a bit the plight of the world rainforest and the link between their destruction and climate change. We made a 500-copy book that was given by Prince Charles to world leaders before the Copenhagen summit. So there's definitely things that are amazing opportunities to try to have a little influence, but it's also very difficult to quantify that, and I definitely cannot take all the credit. I work, as I said, with other organizations, with many people that are more talented than me and that are working hard, And so it's funny, my career takes those two paths. No, on one hand, there's all that big scope distribution, and then the art world is much more, it's a definitely more thoughtful world, which is also much more permanent, and I'm very interested in that because unfortunately when I was only doing media work, images fly and they go in and out and everybody forgets about them. And when you do this other kind of work, if you can put your photos in the gallery,
right,
in a museum, it has a permanence, and that dialogue is there much longer, and I'm very interested in that.
And let's talk about that. We're down to the last 4 minutes or so, but I want you to share, if people come on your website, like I've asked them to, Daniel Beltra, Beltra.com, and they view your beautiful work and they want to own a piece, do you sell the work through your website?
No, not at all. No,
okay.
The work is sold through art galleries.
Okay.
So right now I have the show at the G2 Gallery, or
right.
my main gallery is in Chicago. It's Catherine Edelman.
Perfect.
In Chicago.
So that's how people can access. They can go and see the galleries that your work is being exhibited at and for sale, and they could access your great work through those galleries.
Definitely, but and also, the work is definitely available online, and it can be seen for free by everybody.
Of course.
And I'm very interested also in doing shows where the work is not for sale. No? So, for example, with the oil spill, we had big shows at the Seattle Aquarium, at the Long Beach Aquarium. We had shows in Europe. So I'm always very interested in that educational part of the project. No?
And let's talk about that. The spill. I'm looking at the spill right now, and the pictures are both just visually gorgeous in some ways, but visually haunting in others. And sometimes they say people go to a NASCAR race not to see the cars race, but to see the cars crash. Is there something that ever worries you about people looking at this and wanting to just see the sort of disaster that's within?
Well, there might be a little bit of that, but I think with the work I do now, I'm trying to step away from that part. No, and I felt, as a journalist, there was much more of that before, no, and I think maybe there's a strong attraction that's even a bit sick, as you were saying, no, who's really interested
right.
in watching an accident, but at the end of the day, you cannot take your eyes out of it. So there's a bit of that maybe, but with the way I present the work now, I hope that it's more the beauty that can spur an interest, and the fact that people sometimes approach a show and they look at the photo and say, oh, this is beautiful, and what is it? And then they look at it and they're like, oh, this is an oil spill.
Right.
And sometimes I get criticized because of that, no? But it's a different way of engaging, and hopefully it's a way that has a longer longevity. People might be more interested in having a photo of an oil spill if it looks beautiful on their wall in their house instead of an accident that's horrible, no? So with that different angle, I'm hoping to engage and inspire. Yeah,
you are, because I look at it and I love the beauty of it, but then I say to myself, darn, this beauty came out of this disaster, and let's not ever let that disaster happen again.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to do. No, one of the photos that is very dear to me in that collection is a group of pelicans that are covered in oil.
I'm looking at that right now.
And sometimes people tell me, well, that's a photo that's different from the project, and maybe you shouldn't show that because it's too harsh. And for me, it's not at all. It's a bit the photo that grounds the whole project. It can be abstract or beautiful, but at the end of the day, also, the main message is this, is like, what are we doing? Are we really making sense when we go drilling places when we cannot cap a spill? When we talked about the 4.9 million barrels spilled in the Gulf, and everybody says, oh, that's so much. But if you think that we consume in the U.S. only 20 million barrels per day, so every day it's 4 times what got spilled in the Gulf in 3 months. So we have a lot to do, and I don't like also to point fingers. I've done that before. What I said, again, it's dialogue, it's inspiration, and it's hoping to find common grounds and solve the problem we have.
I agree. And just a shameless plug, we're down to the last 15 or so seconds. Tell our listeners again where to buy your great work.
Well, the work is right now at the G2 Gallery in Venice, in Los Angeles,
right.
And definitely at Catherine Edelman Gallery in Chicago.
Well, Daniel, you're always welcome to come back on Green is Good to talk about one of your latest projects. We want our listeners, like you said, to go enjoy your work for free if they want. If they don't want to, if they can't make it to LA or Chicago, Daniel Beltra, Beltra.com. Daniel, you are both an amazing artist and environmental photographer, and truly living proof that green is good.
Well, thank you very much, John. It's been a pleasure.